Agwini Ushla, Falterovis Jock, you're very welcome to this first ever virtual civic reception here at the Tipperary County Council Chamber in Clonmel. Wherever in the world you're tuning in from, welcome. We're in the shadow of Slieve Namon here in the Council Chamber with some of the heroes of Tipperary over the last 12 months, and we're delighted to have you with us here tonight. Also, we're delighted to have the presence of Conor Sweeney. Welcome, Conor. And David Power. Welcome, David. Not too much time to rest on your laurels, boys. You're back into a new season and a good win over Wicklow last weekend, Conor.
Yeah, great to get off the mark eventually. So, it was a good win now by a few points. So, all roads lead to Tullamore now this weekend. So, hopefully we can get our second win under the belt.
And you're looking at Offaly now, David?
Yeah, look, it's going to be another tough battle. It's a very, very tight group. Even Wicklow still have a chance of getting into the top two. So, it's about really us on Saturday and getting that important win.
Have you had much time to reflect on the great year? We're going to do it tonight for you anyway, in case you hadn't.
Yeah. Look, I suppose over the Christmas period, I suppose with our families it was great, but I suppose the big disappointing thing, we haven't really celebrated as a group really yet at all. But look, that's what it is. But yeah, look, it was a special period, and it's something that I don't think anyone will really forget.
Well, it's great to have yourself and Conor here this evening. Hopefully you'll enjoy the evening as much as we enjoyed last year, even though that's a high bar. Also joined this evening by Cathaoirleach of Tipperary County Council, Michael Smith. Fáilte, Michael.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Tell us, Michael, first of all, how did this event come about?
Well, Paul, Tipperary has always excelled when it came to sporting achievement, and certainly in the last 12 months, when you look at the names like Sam Bennett in cycling in the Tour de France, when you look at Rachel Blackmore in horse racing in Cheltenham in the Grand National, but when we think back to last November and the heroic, magical, historical achievements of the Tipperary senior footballers in winning that Munster title and beating, I suppose they had a bonus, beating Cork on the way, and it was a very, very special time for us all, and the memories that is going to stay with us for a long, long time, and doing so in the anniversary of Bloody Sunday. A remarkable achievement, and we're just delighted. It's the highest honour that Tipperary County Council can bestow on any group, any team, any individual, and we're delighted to have these two gentlemen here this evening to join us.
And you're also breaking new digital territory, so to speak, for local government.
That's right. I suppose everybody over the last 12 months has to adapt and change, and in the local authority we're no different. A lot of our meetings are held in virtual capacity on Zoom. So this is a first, we're looking forward to it, but it also gives us an opportunity that it allows the viewers to be part of this whole experience, because certainly as we all watched it as a county, we all felt part of it, because the players and the management, they just infectiously, they drew us in.
Now, you're a Clonakilty clubman from mid-Tipperary. Do we have enough time here tonight to go through all your playing honours, I wonder? Well,
maybe if we want to talk about junior standard, junior B or junior A, but I suppose I'd have to say David mightn't have known this, and maybe that's the reason I didn't get the phone call myself. My father played minor for Tipperary. I had three uncles, Dan, Willie and Frank, that played minor and under 21, but I didn't inherit their silky skills.
You're taking after the mother,
political genes. It must have been on my mother's side, but bearing that in mind, I don't mind I didn't get the phone call. But no, in Clonakilty, we're a small rural parish, and like everything, my son and everybody, they're all wearing the jersey now, and it's about, you know, the blue and gold. We all had the roar for the blue and gold, but on that particular day in November, it was the green and white, and that's what has happened here. The tradition of hurling football, we're now a dual county, and we're ready to go forward and take on and achieve more, please God.
Now, I watched the game in a surreal way in a sitting room on my own, and I was absolutely in bits afterwards. What was your experience?
Well, my experience was with my family, and we prepared, I'd say, a bit like the team. We had the bite to eat a bit early and sat down on the couch. My daughter Rebecca actually plays with the Templemore ladies football team. It's very important I mentioned them. She didn't give out to me otherwise. But just to say, I'm normally very calm at a match, and I kind of like to, focus and keep my own counsel during a match. But to see them coming out in the jersey, and knowing myself, someone, when you put on the jersey from a club, the pride that instills, and bearing in mind the history that was attached to it, it must have been in the dressing room. I'd love to have been there, and I'd love to get the guys' thoughts on it, because to go onto the field knowing that it was a Munster final, knowing that it was anniversary of Bloody Sunday and what they were trying to achieve to beat Cork, it was huge. And especially, I would say, in the way they did it. It was attractive football. It was pure. The fielding by Colin Reardon, the scores by Conor. I have to say, as a Clonakilty man, I prefer to have a hurl in my hand. He's a big guy and trying to take him on. But it was just magical for everyone to see. And you know, it's a special time for us as a county.
Very good. Well, thank you for opening proceedings for us tonight, Michael. Before we look at your run into the Munster final last year, guys, Conor, take us back to the start of last season. I mean, Ireland was in a very difficult place. Hopefully we're coming out of it now, but we had COVID. We didn't know if we were going to have a season. So what was the mindset in the panel even before the season started?
Yeah, it was a funny one because I think we played 5 rounds of the league and then all of a sudden, you know, the virus struck and we had to go into lockdown, and we didn't really know if the future had a championship in it or whatever. But so I suppose we kind of reassessed during that period. I know myself, I took a good break and just switched off from it all. But when we finally got dates, then again you started to tune back in and switch on, you know. And we worked really hard through that lockdown individually. And we just came back in good shape, and we 2 rounds of the league left. And to be honest with you, Paul, that was probably the springboard for it all. Those were probably 2 extremely important games that a lot of people will overlook from last year, obviously enough because of what happened. But if we didn't get results there, you know, against Offaly and Leitrim, we were probably in a relegation battle again, you know. So those were 2 extremely important games, and obviously to keep our division status, but also then to give us a bit of momentum going into the Clare match, which we did, and that was only, you know, 6 days after the last round of the league. So games are coming thick and fast, but those 2 games really gave us a bit of confidence, and they just gave us a bit of momentum going into the championship, and it just rolled on from there, really, you know.
David, are you going to tell us now, like every good accountant, that this was part of your business plan for Tipperary football last year? You targeted the Munster final. I mean, every manager wants silverware at the start of the season, but what about your own take on that kick-off? Because ultimately, you know, it was a very uncertain time, and trying to know what players are available and how you're going to deal with restrictions. How was that?
Yeah, I suppose before COVID struck, I suppose we were struggling. You know, we had a very poor performance against Longford. We had a good performance against Cork the previous weekend, even though we lost by a point. So in many ways, COVID might have came the right time for us, because I don't know, would we bet Offaly and Leitrim? We just weren't playing well, even though training was going really well. But we just weren't getting the results. And then over summer, then I suppose, like, we did a charity thing. We did die, we'd say the Shave or Die, and that kind of just got lads together. And then I suppose over the summer, when there was kind of rumours that we might be getting back in, and then we kind of started meeting in groups. But then the clubs got back as well. So it was a difficult period, because you didn't know whether to be.
You didn't know whether you were
coming or going, and you didn't know what the right thing really was to do. And then I suppose we got a couple of boys back as well, Michael Quillivan, Liam Casey, Colin Reardon, even though Colin couldn't play against Leitrim, Offaly, or even against Clare and Limerick, but he was there in the background. He was doing all the training. He was there, we'll say, during match days as well, so he was part of it. So, you know, when he did come in, you know, it wasn't that he wandered around. He was always there.
He wasn't coming up from Shannon Airport straight into training.
No, because I'll actually remember, I'll always remember the first session that I said something was going to happen was the Friday night when all the Clonmel commercial lads were back and the Lockmore lads were back from the county final. Colin was there that night, and I think from that night just things really developed. Then we played Laois in the challenge. We did very, very well that night, and then we rolled into the Offaly game, and then, you know, so just things started.
Just happened.
Just really started to align for us, because even the Clare game was always going to be a 50-50 game. Even the Limerick game was going to be tough as well. So I suppose we grew in confidence with each game. But we'll say Conor is definitely right. Beating Offaly, I was really wound up myself that day. It was just beating Offaly, getting that first game, because because I was really confident if we could beat Offaly that things could happen then over the next couple of weeks.
Well, we look forward to getting some insights. Obviously, Michael Smith has mentioned what it was like in the dressing room, etc., at various events during the course of the year. So we look forward to chatting to you about that. But first, let's look at your path to the final.
You know, to be there last March, looking forward, not knowing whether we were going to have a date in sight, and then it all just to fall together on Bloody Sunday the way it did, I think it was really meant to be, and I don't think it's something I'll never forget anyway.
It's gas, like, I suppose. Look, when we were back training and we knew we had 2 league matches and we'd play Clare and Limerick, we said we knew we had a great chance. We were on the right side of the draw in our own minds to get to a Munster final. And when we played Clare, we weren't exceptional or anything, but we bet them when we were dogging. We could see that there was a bit of something there. Against Limerick, Sweeney's point, it probably was a lifeline we didn't deserve.
The fullback, Jimmy Feehan, Michael Quinlan, giving it back to his fullback. And the ball has been blocked, but the referee has blown his whistle for the late challenge on Michael Quinlan. The referee, I think, is giving a free to Tipperary. 74 minutes, 30 seconds. 30 seconds to go. This would be some equaliser if Conor Sweeney can put this over the bar.
I was just watching. I just thought, he's kicked. I don't know has he kicked these before. We've been down training. He's done a good few kicks. I don't know, is this in the locker from in around the 21 on the sideline? And I was thinking, I'm not sure about this.
From the sideline, it's floating in. It's curling in. It's off the pass and it's over the bar. Now that is sheer class. Is there a winner in extra time? Brian Fox gets by the first opponent. He's gone all the way. He's going to have a go. He has a shot and it's over the bar. The referee blows the full-time whistle. And Limerick are out of the Munster Championship, and Tipperary just get there by the skin of their teeth.
But we got it, and we took full advantage of it, and you just felt that maybe this was our year, that our name was going to be on the cup, like, full stop.
Now, I want to say to you, Conor Sweeney, as far as I'm concerned, you get a free anywhere around the pitch. I'm putting my house on you. But Philly Austin, maybe not so much.
Yeah, it was nice to see he had a bit of confidence in me in there, wasn't it?
Big kick though.
Yeah, it was a big kick, yeah. I don't know, it was a funny one. It was just one of those moments that are probably few and far between in someone's career, but I can remember it as clear as day. Like, I think I've mentioned before, I was aware that it was an injury time, but I don't think I was. I think subconsciously I just knew that, you know, this was it. Like, and yeah, the minute the ref blew the whistle, I fancied it, you know. I just said, this is it, I can kick this over, and I have to, like, because as it turned out, he blew it up once the goalie kicked it back out, you know. But yeah, listen, I scored a few points. I suppose my gander was up, as they say, and I fancied it, and I just said if I put it far enough right that, you know, the wind will bring it in, and I caught it nicely, and thankfully it just crept in. Like you talk about inches in sport, I mean, it was the width of a post, really, you know, between us and what happened last year. So yeah, just delighted it went over.
And despite what Austin says, do you do a bit of that in training? Obviously, have you a process?
I do a lot of free taking, alright, but none to that extent. I'm actually the one lad who kind of tells boys to stay away from those, you know. But I think you earn the right to have a go at some of those. Like, it's funny, I'd never attempted from that position, really. Generally speaking, I think I have my range pretty nailed on at this stage, and that's never in my range. But it's just the conditions, the day that was in it, I don't know, the wind was at my back, it suited me. And I just, like I said earlier on, I was confident, so, you know, thankfully it sailed over. And
Moments like that, David, I think the expression is, who'd be a manager? I mean, left or right, it's all over.
Yeah, and I remember at half time, I think we were 8 points down, were we, Conor? 7 or 8 points down. And we came out flying, and we were 2 points up come the water break. And then don't know, we should have been kicking on, and then we left Limerick back into it. And to be fair to Billy Lee and Limerick, they're a very, very strong team. then Connor stepped up, and it was just a magical score. And from then you just felt we should go on to win the game. But again, Limerick were always there. It was a really, really tight game.
Well, it was great to make it, and of course the night before the Munster Senior Football final in Cork, the scene of the massacre in 1920 was commemorated at Croke Park, and the ceremony led by Brendan Gleeson.
So it's like be kind of into my local history, being from Donoghal, and obviously it's the birthplace of Dan Breen, number one, and number two, I live literally over the field from where the Salahead Beg ambush took place, so I kind of know plenty about it. But I suppose in the build up to the match we tried to block out the whole Bloody Sunday anniversary, but it probably was kind of impossible because obviously you're wearing a jersey. Then obviously I watched the Saturday night up in Croke Park and the commemoration that took place, and you couldn't help but be just immensely proud of where you came from and of what Tipperary football stood for in that context. Like, it was the worst thing I ever did was watch it, because I was nearly breaking down in tears. Like, it was so emotional, like, and you realise what you're representing, and it's a lot bigger than just yourself or the lads that were around you. It was about the football, and it was about everything that the GA stood for.
At 3:15 p.m. on Sunday, November the 21st, 1920, the sun shone over Croke Park, warming the crowd of 15,000 gathered to watch Tipperary play Dublin in a game of football, a rare and precious thing in a time of war. In 90 seconds, 14 people lay dead and mortally wounded on the field and banks of Croke Park and on the streets outside. We pause to remember them all, the 14 who went to a match and never came home. Daniel Carroll from Temple-Derry, County Tipperary, was hurrying away from Croke Park when a shot from a police lorry struck him in the leg. He lay in hospital the following day, talking to Martin Kennedy, the owner of the bar in Drumcondra where Daniel worked. "Wasn't it misfortunate I went," he said. Daniel died on Tuesday. He was 31. As Michael Hogan crawled across the ground beside Frank Burke, he shouted to the other players nearby, "We'll lie in here close, we might get some protection." Then Frank Burke heard Michael again above the rattle of gunfire. "I'm shot," Hogan said. He died on the field, forever tied now to Croke Park, immortalised by the stand that bears his name. He was 24. James Tehan, from Gurteen, County Tipperary, had left the bar he ran with his brother on Green Street in the heart of the city that afternoon, bound for Croke Park. When the firing began, he was swept up in the crush at the exit near modern-day Hill 16. His body was returned home to Tipperary and buried in a quiet graveyard surrounded by trees and a soft-running stream, away from the chaos that claimed his life. Cuoine mi seartha I lích. We remember them all.
Even now, still powerful. David, how do you manage all that around the game?
We actually, I remember when we bet Limerick that I was aware of the green and white jersey, was kind of, no one was mentioning it, but it was there in the background, and of course I didn't say it to the players. And I remember ringing, I spoke to Barry, and I said, look,
Barry
O'Brien, who was the football chairman at the time, and I spoke to Connor and we'll say the leadership group, and they're all happy to wear the green and white jersey. And I rang Tim Floyd, the county board secretary. I said, could we just release it that we're going to wear it as basically as soon as possible. And I think it was released that Monday morning. I don't know, because I wanted to get it out there, because we'd still 2 weeks before the Munster final, because I was aware all these different distractions were going to cause a bit of chaos. So also then I got Tim then to get a set of jerseys, so I say we wore them 3 or 4 times leading up into the Cork game, and so all that was helping. We didn't get into the whole emotion of it. We kept it to the Munster final, and really, I'll never forget the Sunday night then when Mark Keane got that goal against Kerry. I was minding Dara, and I said to myself when he got the goal, we're going to beat Cork. I just had that feeling. I don't know, it was weird. I had that feeling we were going to beat Cork, because we got through a game against Limerick that we shouldn't really won, and I just had that feeling. We never had any fear against Cork, Tip, and I just don't know, and things started to align then at that stage.
Conor, you're playing all your life in the blue and gold, and suddenly then a different jersey is talked about. There's all this emotion. Again, I think the nation was in bits. How were you?
Yeah, I was great. I was fine.
Well, that's the main thing, in fairness.
Yeah, I was grand. It was another jersey. Like, I kind of felt we were going to be wearing it regardless of whether we kind of wanted it or not. So I just felt we just get on with it now, you know. But listen, it's funny, like I think, like David said there, we got together just for a brief few minutes the first session back after Limerick, and we just spoke about, you know, like what's really important here, you know, because I suppose for the team the most important thing was the match, you know, and everything else just came second after that. But in terms of emotion and stuff, we didn't use it at all. We didn't dig into it at all. That might sound selfish, but
probably cloud your judgment on things and maybe divert you from the task in hand, would it?
Yeah, well, it was a potential, you know, banana skin for us. Like, there was, you know, it was only our second Munster final appearance that decade. You know, we didn't have to dig too deep for motivation. You know what I mean? I'd never won a Munster championship before, senior level. None of the boys had. So, you know, as a group and as a panel, we just had to focus on the match. And it's only kind of afterwards then you can, you know, delve into the other stuff, the history behind it. And like, watching Foxy there, I watched a bit of that commemoration thing the evening before myself, but you know, I would have taken a different approach. I wouldn't have got emotional at all. I just wouldn't have allowed myself, you know. Well,
you mightn't have got that free against Limerick if you were a bag of emotions, as the
yeah, maybe so, but who knows. But yeah, listen, I think it was just, we'd been waiting so long for this moment, you know. No jersey, no nothing was probably going to throw us off, and that's the way I felt, really. And that was the mood around the field with the players, which was the most important thing, you know.
Great to get the insights on such a big game, and we're also delighted to welcome the Tipperary GA County Board Chairman into the chamber, Joe Kennedy. How are you, Joe?
I'm very well, Paul.
Like the rest of us, were you caught up in the pizzazz?
I was, yeah. I like watching the commemoration the night before. Like, I know Conor had to detach himself from it, but like for the rest of us, and we would have read the history about Bloody Sunday, like we'd have heard about it from the time we went to school, and obviously all the history around the Hogan stand and Michael Hogan being from a Tipperary man, you know, and I suppose maybe growing up you're kind of detached from that, but suddenly you have this momentum building thing towards a Munster final on the day of the 100th anniversary, and Tipperary in it and wearing green jerseys, you know. So you couldn't but help the night before to kind of, as David said, you kind of felt that maybe the gods were aligning here. And like from the moment that Cork scored that goal, I'd give us a fighting chance, because, you know, in sport maybe some teams you always feel you have a chance against it. And I think, you know, playing Kerry in the Munster final, there would definitely be a psychological advantage to Kerry, because, you know, being the kingpins of football. But like as David also said, like we'd always feel we have a fighting chance against Cork.
And you had grown up with one of the Bloody Sunday panel in your midst.
Yeah,
in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, like I'm a Temple Tuohy man, born, but like I'm born in Castliney, and Bill Ryan of Laha, or Lochmore Castliney, always would have been known as Bill Ryan of Laha to us. When he lived 2 or 3 miles over the road from us, and like I would never spoken to the man before I've seen him, and would have been spoken about both in primary and secondary school as having played, and he was interviewed in the Late Show there at different stages, you know. So like you would be aware of, you know, that brought it nearer to it.
And what about the county board ticket allocation then? Because obviously there's great tickets going around for All Ireland finals and various things like that. Yeah. So how did the Munster final ticket allocation work?
Well, look, it's very strange, like to be so involved in the board and being so involved in the GA, like I don't think I've ever missed a final that Tipperary have played in at any level. And all of a sudden here we are at that stage I was vice chairman of the county board, and you're sitting at home in your sitting room watching the match.
What's the world come to in fairness?
Yeah. Well, look, that COVID lad obviously threw a damper into us all, you know. So it's very strange to be at home and Tipperary in a Munster final. And I think Michael Smith said it there. You made sure and had the dinner early to give yourself a chance to.
A right good run at the day.
Exactly, something like that.
And look, we're celebrating heroes past and present here today, Joe, as well. And unfortunately, some sad news coming out of your parish as well in the last 24 hours with the passing of one of the oldest medal holders in Gaelic games in Tipperary.
Yeah, Johnny Everett, who was president of our own club and who was an All-Ireland senior medal winner in 1950 with Tipperary, passed away. He'd been a selector in 1971 when we won our one and only county final, and he's the last member of that panel of the selectors, and I think only Jimmy Finn is the only man who is now alive from that 3 in a row team. So Johnny has a massive influence on the club over the years, but obviously in his early days as a player and as a chairman and a trainer,
His 98th year, but it's still unfortunately a loss for the family. We express our condolences to the Everard family, to Josephine, Mary, the daughter of the great man, Brendan Pearce, Sean, Conor, Dermot and Enda, and Arieshde Goreva Anam. So, the night before the Munster final, the rest of us were keyed up to the last. Take us to the morning of the Munster final, David.
Yeah, well, I suppose the morning of the Munster final, we all drove in our own cars. We kind of got into routine. We had no pre-match meal, and so we'll say Amy.
Did you have a hurley with you to bang it to just kind of get the lads riled up on the big day?
No. It's gas. Myself and Jim Murphy went down to Cork. He's the team administrator. On the Monday going into the Munster final, so we went through where the lads were. So we had 2 dress rooms and we had to go up to the stand. So for the team meeting, we had to go underneath the stand.
And are you that kind of a manager? Like, do you do fire and brimstone in the dressing room beforehand, or what way? If you're preparing for a game, is it all done with X's and O's on charts a week in advance, or what's the story?
No. I think you're building it up. I'm not a big. Maybe last Sunday against Wicklow at half time, maybe I lost my cool, but no, I wouldn't be that type of manager. I'd be fairly calm, but I'd be kind of. I like everything planned and everything, so we can give a detailed plan to the players, so like they know what they're going to be doing.
Were there obvious frailties in Cork for you?
Yeah, I always fancied our forwards against our backs. Always, and especially the way Cork lined out that day as well. I always said, our forwards are going to have a good time against this Cork backline, and also I thought we got our matchups really spot on in terms of our backs on some of their key forwards as well. And obviously with Colin O'Riordan probably coming back in, that obviously helped us as well. But to be fair to the lads, it was a whole collective group. I thought as a group we really, really did perform that day.
Conor, you're going down to Cork from your own neck of the woods. What's going through your mind?
Just positive thoughts, really. Keep it as positive as you can. Like Dave said there, we all drove separately.
Have you all this Eminem high energy music kind of getting you in the zone, or is it Liam Clancy, or what is it?
It could be anything. Bit of ABBA, bit of Cher. What are you laughing at?
I wouldn't have put you down as a Cher man now, Conor.
What's he laughing at? No, I don't really have a specific genre, whatever tickles my fancy at the time. But
just switch off.
That's it, yeah. No, I actually enjoyed travelling on my own to the games, especially when it was Páirc Uí Chaoimh, because it's only down the road for us, like here in Tip, so it just gives you that little bit of time and space, to get your head straight for the game, and by the time you hit Páirc Uí Chaoimh, then you're in the zone,
We're really looking forward to looking at this game, and we've highlights of both halves, so we'll come to you at the second half or at the break as well. But the understanding, Conor, that the forward unit has is incredible. I mean, Yourself and M. Quinlivan seem to be telepathic almost.
Yeah, we've played with each other for a long time now. You know, the guts of maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 years anyway at this level, and we've kind of always played either in the inside forward line or in the half forward line. We've never been too far apart anyway, so I think it's just something you build up over time. You know, we've a good understanding of what each other likes and the way we want to play, and I just think, you know, we're able to read each other pretty well. So yeah, that's something that we've been able to build on over the last couple of years, and thankfully, you know, it kind of all came to fruition last year as well, so it was great.
Very good. Well, if we've anyone from Cork watching, or if you're in Cork and you're a Tipperary person, maybe turn up the Facebook volume right now, because for the next while we're going to reflect on a really great 70 minutes for Tipperary. Tip v Cork in the 2020 Munster Senior Football Final. Bring it on, says you.
The idea the week of the game is to, even if you're playing or sub or you're a panel member, is just to try switch off. I was probably watching some girly movie with the missus the night before, but it was decided during the week that we were going to drive individually, which meant that we got to sleep in our own beds, which is mighty. And then normally you'd always travel with 2 or 3 people, and being from the north, then myself and Stevie O'Brien were the only ones that were travelling down to the game, so we said, listen, should we link up? And of course Stevie being Stevie wanted to drive, and everyone that knows me knows I like driving, so he'd have a very unique set of an acquired taste, let's put it like that, for music, and I'd have my own taste then, and so we had this Mexican standoff of who was going to drive. So I said, Stevie, we just go down individually. So we ended up nearly going down in a convoy. The 2 of us driving down on our own. But no, listen, it was great. Sure, there was, I don't know, 20. There was a lot of people did the same thing, like 20, 22 cars going down all in convoy. And the chat when we got down there was, had anyone seen the guard with the gun out on the motorway, which no one seemed to have seen. Come together upstairs, we say, where the crowds would have come in, the patrons would have come in. Any given Sunday speech then was more or less Colin O'Riordan would do them, like he's been well known to do them, so he'd be good for them. Sween's being the teacher then, he'd settle everyone down with a very, very sensible chat then. Everyone knows their role beforehand, and I don't think you can be going into a game and then coming up with something new the day of a game or an hour before the game. It's just not going to work. And you have a team that's quite experienced with a mix of young players as well, so which is good.
Tipperary go forward with Michael Quinlivan, All-Ireland minor football medalist, as so many of these footballers are, from 2011. Kylie on the ball again, giving it to Coleman Kennedy. There's 2 other brothers in the panel. Good ball inside. As Tipperary play with confidence. There's a chance here for Conor Sweeney, and that's another score. And Tipperary have settled well.
When you kind of get into that groove and things start to go right, it's easy build upon. But even when Cork then did get their purple patch, I still felt that this was still our game, like, and I don't know, was that a belief instilled in us from management or from each other and stuff like that, but there was just that sense of belief that this is going to happen for us and there's nothing kind of going to stop us, really, like.
This is Conor Kennedy. Great speed merchant down the wing. Having a go. Oh, does it have the legs? It has the legs, it has the accuracy.
It was a good score, right, but I won't give him too much credit for it, because I could see Sweeney pointing at the back post, and that's where he was supposed to put it, and I know that's what he went to do, like, so he went over anyway, so he smiled, he knew himself, I'd say.
Was he going for Sweeney or was he going for a pint? Knowing Mikey, there's no doubt about it, he was going for a pint. Look, he has it all. He has speed, he has height, he's good in the air, left and right. He was 100% going for a pint, and I actually don't think it got enough recognition, that point. It was unbelievable because it happened so quick, and he just trots off then. But no, listen, he has it all. He's done it before. We've all seen him capable of doing it. When he first came on the panel, he was taking 45 left and right, and I thought, jeez, this lad.
An absolute beauty in Páirc Uí Chaoimh.
So at half-time, things going according to plan for you anyway, David?
Yeah.
4 points
well.
up.
4 points up, playing well.
So what do you say when you get the players together at that point?
It's about, I suppose, we'd usually give maybe 3 to 5 minutes to the players, just, let's say, for themselves. Then the stats lads would give us the different stats, and then Paddy Christie then would go through them. And then I go to, maybe I just go through maybe 2 or 3 key points of that.
And what for you were those key points at that point?
We'll say our conversion rate was very, very good at that, in terms of the shots. We were we were on the button. The kick-outs would have been a big thing, like the breaking ball, and then also not to be giving away the ball. They probably would have been the key points. I can't remember now exactly, but
no, it's okay. It's not an exam. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, but I imagine they would have been the key points. But I remember really I was looking around and I said, we're in a really good spot here. There was this belief, and maybe Conor will pick it, I think there was this belief amongst us all that we're going to win it.
We're on the road.
We're on the road.
Yeah.
The key thing I definitely would have said was we hadn't won a third quarter in any of the matches, so we would have really honed in on that.
That's a good stat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up to the most bar, we'll say the Limerick game. So up to the Limerick game, we hadn't won any third quarter in that match.
Yeah,
dreadful stats.
It's a good one to throw out, I suppose.
Yeah. But
Conor, you're sort of left to your own devices. You walk off after that. You're kicking all over the place. You're raising green or white flags. How do you feel then when you hear the halftime whistle?
Yeah, just again in a good place. We'd started really well. We were just on it. We were on our game that day, and when you're in that position, it doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it's probably one of the best feelings ever, because you just know. It happened to us a couple of times in 2016, but you just know you're in a winning position. So to go in at half time a few points up was great, but you knew you're only halfway there. You
got to turn it on again.
Yeah, you got to go out again and do more the same, and possibly even work harder, because you knew Cork, there was going to be a sting in Cork. We came out then, we started well. We got the first point in the second half, which settled the nerves again, and then we had a great goal opportunity. I think if that goes in, we put the game to bed a little bit earlier, but it doesn't. It keeps Cork in the game, and we have to go again, and that was one thing that really pleased me, was that bit of maturity to see the game out, because in previous years we might have let them slip, but not that day, thankfully.
Well, let's all of us savour the next few minutes.
As a backline, we felt if we were able to hold the Cork forwards, we were going to go a long way towards winning the Munster final. And credit to the boys, we did hold them on that day, and it all just felt together wonderful.
Kick out. Comes to Tipperary again. Here we go with an opportunity. It's Liam Casey, a goal against Limerick. Flicks it in. Oh, off the crossbar. It should have been a goal. The danger is still there. Fisted in. In comes the touch, and it's in the back of the net. But the referee has blown his whistle, and he's giving a square ball.
I hadn't been involved in a game of that magnitude in a long time. As Jack said, I was away for 5 years in America. But it was a different occasion. I think, you're arriving down, it's nearly like kind of a friendly scenario, but it's the biggest game we're probably ever going to play in, or had played in up to that point. So it was a massive occasion to play alongside my brother. It was incredible. It was unfortunate that Jacko missed out on the final, because he obviously would have been there with us, but we'll just have to do it again.
The full forward Conor Sweeney, a little bit better from Tipperary, more urgency, trying to get the pass back for Sweeney. Sweeney under pressure. 4 Cork players around him, manages to squeeze it out using this side of the field instead. Here's an opportunity for Tipperary, and that is a beauty. Well worked, well created by Liam Casey and the Tipperary players.
He got one in the first half, and he got a massive point for Tipperary in the second half.
I didn't know whether I was going to be getting in, so it was great to get in and then to get the win as well, so it was just a brilliant day.
And personally, I was under a lot of pressure there for the first half, but then second half the boys kind of held me out a good bit, so it became a bit easier as the game went on, and as a result came closer. The realisation that we were going to win, that was just joy.
Conor Sweeney, advantage being given, being held. Conor Sweeney survives the challenge and kicks a mighty point. The ball given by Quinlivan to Sweeney. They are Batman and Robin of Tipperary football. They are the dynamic duo, and there's now a little bit of daylight between themselves and the Rebels.
It's great to have a brother on the panel as well. I know Greg from our same club was involved in the panel as well, so it's great to have three of us from one small club being able to represent the club on such a big day. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Ball is given away by the keeper, and that is hitting off the crossbar and over the bar. Wow.
Michael Quinlivan.
It could have been the talking point and the goal of the year if that went in.
I was so frazzled nearly on the sideline. I think, oh jeez, I'm never getting on here.
Looking for the information down from the sideline, how much time is going to be added on.
So then I said, Davey, I was like a young lad, Davey, signals, and I was looking, is he signalling me? But I was the only one down the line, so I said, he must be signalling me, like. And so I raced up anyway, and Foxy said, you've only 2 minutes, just do whatever you have to do, like. And I said, all right, Foxy. I was like, just let me relax here now. So that was fine, and then Davey came over, and I don't know if Davey remembered this, and I was standing beside him, and he goes, look, there's only 2 or 3 minutes left. Just when you get the ball, run for the corner. I said, Jesus, this is like, it's turning more like a soccer game. I'm in the Champions League final here. So that was fine. I said, okay, Davey. So ran on anyway. And the first thing that happened was the 45, I think. So I tried in anyway, in around the square anyway. And Sweeney was screaming at me to go onto the end line. And I was kind of like, I'm not going to the end line here. Like, I'm going to stay out around the edge of the square. So that was fine, and the ball was coming over my head, and I said, this is coming off the bar, like, down off the bar. And I can't remember if there was two lads went for it, but I kind of looped out around it. And it came into my hands, and I said, I better not run for the sideline. So I said, right, I better just give this a kick anyway, whether it went over or wide. So I whacked it anyway and went over.
Evan Cumberford has it. Going for his second point, he hits it, comes back off the post. Tipperary are there, can they put it over the bar? Yes, they can. Oh, the drama of the Munster Football Final 2020.
That man, Philip Boston, just in off the bench, the most alert.
I was running over to the sideline, and the whistle went. Sure, all hell broke loose then. So, yeah, it was probably the most frantic 3 minutes of my life. Like.
Obviously, we missed the supporters and family and friends in the crowd, but like having to get back into the car by yourself, you kind of had to question, was it a Munster final you had just won, or was it just a challenge match with the club or something like that? Because obviously with COVID there was no bus, no nothing like that, and there was no one really around me, so I had to travel by myself. So it was a case of getting onto YouTube and looking up the Galtee Mountain Boy and sleeving them on and just turning up the radio, really, to be honest.
Tipperary about to win the Munster title for the first time since 1935. It's over! The long wait is over! Cork have been beaten in their own backyard. Tipperary are Munster football champions for the first time since 1935.
I think there's only one word really after that, David. Wow.
Well, yeah.
However, before we get into how you felt at full time when the referee blew the whistle, I'll tell you one thing. I'm fair glad you gave Philip Austin a run.
So am I. What a character. I'm still disappointed that he did actually retire this year, because he's such a leader in that dressing room, and it was great for him to come on, because he's after giving so much to Tipperary football over the last 13-14 years, and he's so good with the young fellas, including this, even Connor, with all the young fellas, and that's the feedback I get. Even at the minute, under 20s are training with the seniors, would say different fields, and all the senior players make the young fellas welcome, and Philip was one of them. And for him, and for the likes of Connor, Brian Fox, all the lads that kept flying the Tipperary football flag, it was really about them that day, and for them to win that Munster medal was just really, really, really incredible.
I mean, we had you on screen there at that moment. I mean, it must just be an incredible feeling.
Yeah, because I suppose I've grown up with football throughout my life, so like you're talking about like 85 years, and even thinking about it now, it would get a bit emotional because I've seen the bad days, I've seen the good days with Tip football, and I've seen days where Tip might struggle to field a team, and that was the reality back then, but now, like when you see the professionalism that's going on and the support from the county board, from the football board, from the Friends of Tip football, it's actually incredible, really, to be honest with you. Because without them, like the lads are well looked after with gear and training, all that. I can remember when Dad was football board secretary or even a selector, it wasn't there back then, like, and so to keep, for all those men that kept Tip football going, would say with those 85 years, it was for them, and that's why I was really emotional, because I just think
you're standing on their shoulders.
Yeah, like I just remember the likes of Hugh Kennedy, Mick Frawley, who have all, like it's just for the likes of them that did keep Tip football going, like that. For them, like they must have been so proud, and to be fair, these group of players, I would say they're a golden generation of Tipperary football, because Conor won the under-21 Munster in 2010. Then we were lucky enough to win the 2 Munsters then in 11 and 12, and then the under-21 and 15 they were unlucky not to win All Ireland. The special group of players, and hopefully over the next year or two we can get them all back, because I still think there's another kick in this group over the next couple of years as well.
Well, between Brendan Gleeson on Saturday night and the likes of yourself and Conor Sweeney on the Sunday, Tipperary was in an emotional state, Conor, after all that weekend. How did you feel just as you were walking off after that?
Sure, over the moon. Like, it was something we've been chasing for a long time, so to get over the line was just incredible. It's been a dream of, I suppose, all of ours to get a Munster championship, and sometimes you think it's never going to happen, but you always keep the faith, and it was just a little bit surreal at the time, and obviously it takes a while to sink in, but just the 2 hours, I mean, we must have held around Páirc Uí Chaoimh for as long as we possibly could, because we knew that that's as good as it was going to get for that evening, so we were just soaking it in and having the crack, and yeah, there was no supporters there, which was strange, but in a funny little way it was a little bit more intimate because it was just us, and like I said, we just hung around and just enjoyed the moment. But like Asti said there, it was chaos for a while, but it was just incredible.
The other side of it, of course, is that you'll be reliving these moments now for forever, but also due to the fact that unfortunately people weren't able to travel, so if they meet you in a Maxwell garage or on the Naas Road or wherever, they'll want to relive that with you. I mean, so many people who weren't there, you probably wouldn't have been able to meet them either, because of the 5 kilometre regime that was in place as well. So you'll be hearing a lot about this.
Yeah, isn't it great? Isn't it fantastic? Like, that's something I've no problem putting up with for any amount of years. It's just, aren't we all lucky, whoever was involved, to be able to say, yeah, I was involved that day, and it's something we're extremely proud of. And listen, like Dave said there, like, while it's fantastic, we've already started a new year and we're looking forward, and we have to drive on and hopefully progress and see can we build on it, because we're only thinking one way, and that's forward. So yeah, we're just looking forward to maybe seeing can we get back there.
You're proud, we're proud of you guys as well. It's absolutely fabulous. And throughout the course of the next while, we'll also be getting feedback from around the county, and our first check-in is with these couple of people, and a couple more coming up as well, from feedback from around County Tipperary.
Tipperary won the Munster football final for the first time since 1935, and to have a Ballyporeen man as captain was great. It was a fitting tribute to Michael Hogan. The fact that the stalwarts of Tipperary football weren't able to be in the stadium to cheer the team on was tough. Very tough on them particularly. I was in Dublin in 2011 when Tipperary minor football team won. My nephew was part of the extended panel, and the joy that day was phenomenal. In everybody's life there is some connection to GAA. in every small community. To Conor Sweeney, the team, and David Power, the management backroom team, hopefully they can bring home the Munster Cup in 2021. And maybe in a couple of years' time, we will see the Sam Maguire held high by a Tipperary captain.
Cashel is the emblem of the county. It's the emblem of the GAA within the county. And on behalf of the people of Cashel and the municipal district here, on behalf of the Fianna Fáil party as well, I want to congratulate this team on their massive achievements throughout 2020. It was like climbing to K2. They have to go back again this year and try and climb to the top of Mount Everest. It was a fantastic achievement for that bunch that have been involved with the Tipperary teams and given us so much joy over so many years. I want to mention in particular my cousin Colin O'Riordan, who, having been out in Australia with such success, came back and just he was like Cú Cullen coming back or to Tiernan Oak, from Tiernan Oak or wherever it was, and joining the team and playing his part in it. And Everest is still in front of them, and they have the ability to climb Everest, and they have the ability to get to the summit, and that's what we wish and want for all of those players.
Now, in studio with us this evening, another guest is Conor O'Dwyer, who's chairperson of the Tipperary GAA Football Board. Welcome, Conor.
Thank you, Paul.
Great memories rekindled for all of us there so far.
Yeah, it's emotional even to look at it back. You know, I didn't have one of the golden tickets that you referred to earlier, Paul. I watched the game at home actually with my 3 kids. My wife was working for the day. You know, and during the game we were roaring and shouting and at the television as you do. Final whistle, the room just went silent. You know, it was quite surreal actually. I don't mind saying it, I went over to one corner of the room, sat in the chair and sobbed like a child for about 5 minutes. My kids didn't know what was after happening. My parents, who lived next door to me for the last couple of years, came into the house. My dad hadn't been in the house for about 4 months because of COVID. They just came in. My wife rang me, she was away as I said, and for the first minute I looked at the phone, I just wasn't able to say anything, you know. So I was surprised because, you know, I'm chairman now. Last year Barry was chairman, I was vice chair. I didn't know many of the players, I'd met maybe 2 of them before that, but I felt far more involved than I'd expected to, you know, and I'm in a past players group, and that was the feeling of all that group. You know, there was no sense of God pity it wasn't us, or no sense of what might have been, that people I think were taken aback by how emotional the whole thing was. And in a way, you know, it being different, no crowd actually made it even, Conor, you referenced it there, a little bit more special in certain ways. I think it's hard to describe, but yeah, it's a day I think that we'll all remember.
Sadly, a great promotional opportunity is not available to the GAA and to the football board and the county generally right now, Conor, because obviously one of the great aspects of wins like this in the past was when the captain of the provincial or All-Ireland winners would call to the schools. So it's probably a missed opportunity in that sense, is it, for the promotion of football?
Yeah, that is an opportunity missed, but you know, it's great to see so many kids in the county wearing that green and white jersey. You know, it'd been better obviously if we could take that cup to schools. You know, and I think you may have mentioned, or David, we didn't get a chance to celebrate. We'll celebrate this yet, good and proper, I can assure you. But yeah, as a promotional tool, there was a bit of maybe a miss, but you know, we are doing as much as we can to build on it. You know, it is.
And how do you do that now, Conor? I mean, you know, great success. A degree of consistency in the last number of years with Tipperary. How do you build on that in Gaelic football terms?
Yeah, I think I mentioned wearing the jersey, that's fine, but I think for me the big challenge is to get more kids playing football within the county. You know, South Tip is always strong and will continue to be the bedrock of football. But we saw on that clip there, Philip Austin is from, you know, he couldn't be any further from Clonmel, from where we are tonight. We need players coming from all over the county, and my ask would be for all clubs to give kids a chance to play football. You know, kids will play whatever game and grow to love whatever sport they get encouragement to play. You know, we need kids from all corners of this county given the opportunity to play football. Wherever about coaching, the most important one is kids playing games in schools and clubs, and we need more of that, I do believe, in all corners to really build on this. You know, we don't want to be waiting another 85 years. You know, we want to be winning All Irelands, but we need more kids playing football and more clubs rowing in behind that.
Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. So Tipperary into the last 4 of the 2020 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship, looking to create history, which they did in so many ways.
Little or no breeze around, that's for certain. Very calm afternoon. Only concern is that fog which might well envelop the stadium a little bit later on, but we live in hope. Here's Kevin Fahey, Liam Casey, nicely over here as far as Conor Sweeney. Back into Colin O'Riordan. O'Riordan's first attempt at a score, and it's gone over the bar. Last scored in the 2015 championship, but he's made it a point apiece here after nearly 3 minutes of play.
It's a case of what if, like we could always say, what if we had banged those first 2 goals with Mikey and Sweeney.
McLaughlin leaving it there for Matthew Ruan to boot it forward. It's a poor ball, however, by Matty. Straight to Kevin Fahey. Good ball ahead here. Kicked in by Coleman Kennedy. 2 men in the inside forward line to aim at. One of them is Quinlivan. Here he goes. It's a gilt. Oh, what a miss! It's gone out for a 45, but really you felt it should have been in the back of David Clark's neck, but the keeper does remarkably well.
I suppose that's the difference between Mayo and us at the moment. They will punish you every time, and when we had the opportunity we didn't punish them.
Bill Maher just summing up what's on to for him, and just there ahead of him was Michael Quinlivan up against Lee Keegan. Awkward angle, gets it across here, beautifully done, and that should have been a goal again for Tipperary. This time it's Conor Sweeney.
You have to take the chances that are given to you, and then they punished us heavily for the chances that we gifted them. So like it was literally just a double-edged sword. We weren't taking them at one end, and then we were leaking them at our own end. That just happens. It's the type of game we want to play. We're trying to bomb forward and create them scores, as I said. But when you play against the top teams, they're going to strip you. You run into contact there. They're too cute, like, do you know what I mean? So we would have learned a lot from that, and hopefully we can use that learning to build on from, say, 2020, I suppose.
Brian Fox, still Fox, showing how it's done. It dribbles. Has it gone over the line? Yeah, it has. And it's Brian Fox who's got it. Well, that is the reply they required.
Where we grew up in Clonmel, like, it's a very big, unlike most places in Tipperary, it's a massive football town, like. But there's definitely a few boys from outside of Clonmel, like Lockmore and all these other, like JK Brackens, they're coming up through the ranks. Like there's a lot of clubs that are kind of taking the football a bit more seriously now, and it's good to see because there's definitely potential there.
Here comes Paddy Feehan, and Paddy Feehan drills it into the back of the net. Hurler come footballer, he's played championship and league with Tipperary, and he's a goal scorer here, just like his brother was a goal scorer against Kerry in a Munster final 4 years ago.
Again, like Cork game, we believe we could go up there and get a result, and it's disappointing not to get a result.
That's a really good catch by Colin O'Riordan. Nicely back in here. Liam Boland. Boland rolls it just narrowly the wrong side of the upright. Another goal chance, however. One more opportunity here for Conor Sweeney, maybe, to finish with something special, and that will certainly please him. Goal and 9 for Conor Sweeney, his 12th ever championship goal. Beautiful finish. And that's 3 goals and 13 now, conceded in an All-Ireland semi-final by Mayo. The final whistle, and so Mayo march on, Tipperary bow out.
Tipperary's championship run in 2020 resonated on so many levels, including in Nina with Labour's Fiona Bonfield.
We watched it at home with my family. I remember we had our dinner on that Sunday and then we all sat down to watch it, and I have to say there wasn't a movement in the town in Upper that evening. They were all watching that game. I cried after it. I don't know why, I just think it was the whole occasion. I think the jersey that evening as well, all about Michael Hogan and the whole lot. For me personally as well, I lost my dad in February 2020, and I know it's something that he would have really, really enjoyed to have seen, and I suppose that made me a little bit emotional that evening as well. And I suppose a lot of families, because of COVID this year, were in the same scenario. There was somebody missing from that television, watching that match that night, and that was emotional for me. But yeah, sure, look, we cried. I just want to say thanks so much. It was an evening that we will never forget, at a time when the country needed it and a time when the county of Tipperary needed it. It lifted the spirits of young and old, and I just have to say, look, it lived in our memories and took us nearly up to Christmas and afterwards, at a time when this country needed it.
Next to Thurles, and the game also had special significance for independent councillor Micheál Lowry.
As we stand here in front of Semple Stadium, the home of the GAA, I think that their achievements are rightly being recognised tonight. The highlight for me was speaking to my grandfather. He's one of them grass a lot more. He played football with Tipperary as a minor in the 40s, played senior in the 50s. To see the joy in that man's face, because he never actually thought he was going to see the day that a Tipperary team was going to lift a Munster title again. And, it brought back, I suppose, a lot of memories for him. And for him to then talk to the guys that he played football with Lockmore, it was just fantastic. It was a real community thing, and I think that we rightly here tonight celebrate that achievement, and hopefully it's the dawn of better things to come for Tipperary football. There's been a hell of a lot of hard work put in by a lot of people over the years, and I think David and his management team deserve a lot of credit for galvanising the guys last year and going out and achieving what many people said wasn't possible. But they proved them wrong, and I'm delighted that we're here tonight to celebrate it.
3-13 would be enough to win you any game, David.
Yeah. That game, we created 11.
You haven't post-traumatic stress disorder?
No. 11, we actually created 11 goal scoring opportunities that match. To say that in All-Ireland semi-final is incredible. But I think Stephen said it there. I think Stephen O'Brien said it there. Like, the way we play, when things go well, looks really, really good. When things go bad, unfortunately, there was a period there for 10-15 minutes. You just could see things unfolding, and there's nothing we could do. But I'm still incredibly proud that we kept playing. We could have got an awful beaten, but the lads kept playing, kept creating these goal opportunities the whole time. We kept playing football the proper way, and that's the one thing I think we're very, very proud of. And to score 3-13 was really, really incredible. But again, look, people say we should have played a sweep, or look, if I went into the dressing room and told the lads we were going to play a sweep, or they lose interest. We want to play football, and that's the way it is. Yes, we have to get a bit cuter. I think the one big thing that I learned from was the intensity from the Mayo forward line was incredible that day. They turned over the backs a couple of times, and that was the big learning curve. And that's where I think over the next year or two, that's why we want to get out of Division 3, because we want to be playing those type of teams. Because if we're playing those type of teams more often, we'll be better prepared for hopefully being back there again.
1-9 in any match isn't a bad return for any player. Conor, that was part of your contribution on the day, and then you exit the championship, and then you have a walk up to Hill 16. I mean, you're scoring 1 minute, and the next minute you're walking up to a piece of Ireland that has so much significance for so many. I mean, that's a serious time in your life, really, that you look back on.
It was a funny one. It was really difficult to do, actually, because you're just after losing probably the biggest game of the season, and it didn't go to plan. And straight away you have to switch from, I suppose, being a player and an athlete to just being a normal human being, and you have to switch totally emotionally. And you know, we were after taking a bit of a thumping, and that was tough, but you had to put that to a side. And I said it afterwards, look, there's more important things in life than football and hurling, like, so it was really important that we, I suppose, marked the occasion like we did, and it was lovely to be a part of. I don't know, does that sound wrong now at the time, but it was a lovely moment. It was really emotional. Croke Park was really eerie that evening. You know, the fog came down and there was no one in the stand. You could literally hear every word that was being said, and the music came on then, and you're going over into the corner where Michael Hogan was shot dead, you know. So it was a nice touch from us, as difficult and all as it was. But listen, like I said, there's more important things, and yeah, I'm glad we did it now.
Looking back on the game itself, people talk about those first two chances. Are they as important in the full scheme of things, do you think?
Yeah, extremely important, yeah. It was a turning point, like, you know, there's no point hiding away from it. We got two great opportunities. They fell to the two right men, and with myself and Michael, and we just didn't take them, and it's not good enough at that level. You know, if I put my house on Michael to score the first one, and I back myself, you know, every day of the week to score the second, and it just didn't happen. And that's sport, you know, you get on with it. But if they go in, who knows what happens? We mightn't have won the game, but, you know, it could be a different dressing room at half time, because that was the hardest place I've ever been at half time. And I played it a long time now, but the game was up, it was over, you know. We acknowledged that as players. We said the game was over, we're not going to win this, but there's a lot more at stake than the actual result, you know. We took gained back a bit of pride, and we had to put just a bit of belief into our performance. And listen, it's a small thing, but we won the second half. It's a small thing, but it's a massive thing as well. It was a massive thing for the future of the Tipperary footballers, because we needed to win that second half, you know. That could have turned ugly, you know, if we didn't turn it around. And listen, we finished strong. We did all we could do. That was about it, you know. But yeah, it wasn't to be. Second All-Ireland semi-final in 5 years, it's not a bad return from, you know, a so-called weaker team in a county dominated by hurling. But listen, that's the target now we've set for ourselves. We'd love to get back there again, and like Dave said earlier, I think there's another kick in us yet, so hopefully we can try and at least get back to that standard.
Great to hear, Conor. And of course, tonight we're also commemorating the 100th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and that was an infamous centenary that allowed many relatives to reconnect with their forefathers.
We have a very strong connection with Bloody Sunday, in that my granduncle Gus was the right corner forward on the Tipperary team that day. The Tipperary team back then were unusual in that they used to meet before the matches, and I thought they were kind of ahead of their time, where they used to have these training sessions. But seemingly they used to go to Dungarvan and they used to go to Kilkenny to train together. And the reason being, they didn't allow mass gatherings in Tipperary, and had they gathered to train, they could have been shot. So the team actually knew each other very well. And before they took the train to Dublin that day, and on the day before Bloody Sunday, they met up here, and they had a meal downstairs in the kitchen. There's a big kitchen table. They had a meal together down there. And where I heard that story, it came from my grandaunt. And it came via somebody who was sitting at the table one day, and she walked into the kitchen and she said, "My God, that's where Mick Hogan had his last meal before he went to Dublin. And he came back from Dublin in a coffin." You know, that's a disputed story as well. Other people say that he took the train from Kilkenny. But my grandaunt, being who she was, she didn't mince words. So I actually believe her. And it would have made sense that I know a lot of the Tipperary team did meet up here. And the majority of the Tipperary team at the time were from South Tip. So they would have been coming from Grangemoke or Mullinahone. I know the Mullinahone lads definitely came over on a horse and cart. And they met, and then they went to the train station in Fethard. And from Fethard then they went to Dublin.
My father was a member of the Tip team on Bloody Sunday. I was about 12 before I really realised what went on. When Dan Breen used to come around, he'd always call up to him. The pair might give about 2 hours chatting. But when at that time, a young lad wouldn't be allowed to hang around. I'm sorry now I didn't.
So we knew that Gus played on Bloody Sunday. And I suppose until the kind of 100 years were coming around, people didn't talk about Bloody Sunday. So not many people talked about stuff like that. And then with the anniversary coming up, Gus was a very good footballer and he was a very good jockey. But about 20 years ago, there was a collection of photographs found in Fethard called the Kenrick Collection. And our neighbour arrived in with this photograph one day of Gus on a bike. Now, I'm a cyclist, and I've always cycled, and I was fascinated by that. I didn't know that when he was in Rockwell, he used cycle, and we think he cycled with De Valera. There's a picture of 4 people in it, and it looks like De Valera, who would have been a young teacher in Rockwell at the time. You had a strange thing in that what people tend to forget is the country was British. So we were as British as the Scottish or the Welsh. Gus's brother served in the trenches in World War I in 1916. We have a letter that he wrote back saying how disgusted a lot of the soldiers were that these fellas in Dublin rose up at the GPO. So you had that massive, I suppose, dichotomy in Irish life where there was conflict within families, where some of them were in the British Army, Gus was in the IRA, and that was common.
There was kind of a needle between Dublin and Tip that time, because Dublin never accepted Tip as a power in football. So that's why there were a big crowd of people there that day.
If you go through a lot of the Bloody Sunday team, a lot of them died young afterwards. Like, they probably had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and didn't know anything about it. The same as a lot of lads who came back from the trenches. So there weren't things that were talked about.
He maintained that they were so agitated, the Tans, that they really didn't know what they were doing. They'd fired at nilly-willy everywhere. Some of them were on the gate trying to stop people from running away out of it. There was panic when Hogan went down. I think it was the local police that looked after them. I mean, sure, thousands of people only had the match to go to a match. Frank Scout Butler from Fethard, he was the goalkeeper on the Tip team. The Scout, he just played at Fethard, and then he went off and he joined the British Army. It was common enough in those days, I believe. Everybody was running everywhere. Then I'm lined up against the wall, 1, 2, 3, down along the line. Scout Butler walked out and challenged that commander, or whoever the gang that had him lined up. And Butler went face to face with a man and said, "Is this what I fought for?" He lifted up his sleeve. Must have been a number or something on his arm. He wasn't long back. I think he was in France. That's the 14-18 war. And he had a powwow then with a couple of his buddies and ended up home to F off. My father, he often said that it was his lucky day. That's what they put it down to. His biggest disappointment was when they went to go home. I think to the Wednesday or Thursday, I think to the middle of the week. There was a crowd of people waiting at the station with placards, Sinn Féiners, please go home. That was his biggest shock. He thought everyone was on their side, but they weren't. That was one of his big surprises.
We're not as afraid of the past as we were. Like, once upon a time, there is no way you would mention that you had a family member in the British Army. And like a lot of these lads, even Scout Butler, who was the goalie on the day from Fethard, served in the trenches with the British Army. But things like that weren't mentioned. People were afraid to mention it. And it's out in the open now. Even, I know, in the past few years around here, a number of people have come up to me and said, well, you know, I served in the British Army for so many years. But it's not something they would have mentioned before. But I think there has been a certain amount of healing and time to kind of revisit the past and look at it. And I suppose look at it from different angles.
They tell me that I'm the only son of that panel. It's hard to believe, but I'll be 89 this year.
Hopefully what has been done around this area, the 100-year celebration, will be there and it'll be preserved and it'll be there for people to see for the next 100 years or more. So hopefully that's, you know, you just have to try and keep the stories alive and keep the stories out there, because if you don't, they die.
They'd want a good heart watching the Tip footballers. They would. It'd be great. They won the Munster this year again to be dicing on the cake.
No pressure at all. Thanks to Jasper Murphy and to Tony Nolan and his wife Anne for the cake on that visit to Mullinahone. Now, several events have been organised to commemorate the 1920 team, and leading those is a former tip on a store, Seamus McCarthy.
At a remove of 100 years, as we stand here at the graveside of Michael Hogan, he will be forever a martyr in Tipperary. He's very much part of the psyche of Tipperary people. How would he view us now? I think he'd be pleased with what he saw. I think the Hogan family, by their very nature and their contribution to Irish society and Irish history, his brother was a great college's advocate of Gaelic games. The Hogan Cup is called after him. Another brother, when the handover of power from the British to the Irish, the man that unfurled the flag, that day was another brother of Michael Hogan. So Ireland has moved on hugely and for the better. I think Michael Hogan would be pleased to see a free Ireland, a democratic Ireland, and an Ireland that's open to the world and contributing. I look back on Michael Hogan and on the people of 1920 and all of them. They were heroes of their time, but they were heroes of all time as well. We've had schools projects. We've children now wearing a green and white jersey, and people are saying, people would have said 12 months ago, what is that jersey? Now everybody knows that's the jersey that was worn on Bloody Sunday, and that's part of the legacy that will carry on to the next generation. When we look back, we would hope that we would have raised awareness of that seminal moment in the War of Independence and in the history of Ireland, and we hopefully will be able to say that we did it well.
Joining us in the chamber now is the former chairperson of the Tipperary GAA Football Board, on whose watch all those events unfolded. Barry O'Brien, how are you feeling now after looking back at those great days?
Well, Paul, I must compliment everybody involved in organising tonight. It's been a great night and a great recollection, great memories being rolled out here for us all. And it was indeed a proud time for Tipperary football. And it's great to have it commemorated tonight. I want to thank the chairman of the council, Michael Smith, and all the councillors, and Joe McGrath and his officials for laying on this civic reception. It's greatly appreciated by everyone involved in Tipperary football, I can assure you.
And you had one of the most prized possessions in Tipperary last year, Barry, which is a golden ticket to the Munster Senior Football Final.
I had, and I want to thank John Devan, the former County Board Chairman, for that, because with COVID restrictions, there was 2 County Board officials allowed to attend the matches, and rightly it should have been John Devan and Tim Fly, Chairman and Secretary of the County Board. But John Devan and Tim stood aside and left Michael Power and myself, Michael as Treasurer of the County Board, and I as Chairman of the Football Committee, attend the matches. And I suppose before we had it for the Munster final, we had it for the Limerick game. And I wouldn't like to repeat the conversation that Michael Power and I had at half time in that game.
And you still have plenty of energy, we could see by the way you were leaping around there at full time.
Well, it was great to be there, and it was great to share success again with David Power. I was Chairman of the County Board in 2011 when we won the All-Ireland minor football title. And David was manager of that as well, so we had 2 great days together anyway.
Absolutely. Actually, 2011, David, what is it about you and getting big results on big days?
I don't know. I've got the players. It's about the players. There was a lot of hard work built up into that group. It's gassed that group. I would have said that with a better chance in 2012 to win the All-Ireland, being honest with you, because we won our first Munster under 16 in 2010, and it's some serious players, some really, really good players, and to be fair, I think even the build up to the Munster under 21 win in 2010, Tipperary looking not to win a couple of under 21s before that, so there was a build up the whole time. So I suppose 2011, I suppose it all came together, and they're just they were a special group of players, and they're still best of friends, and it's actually frightening to believe it's going to be 10 years this year already. So it's incredible, but it's great to be part of that journey.
And Barry, you as someone who soldiered on the football furrow for so long, it must have been greatly satisfying to see last year. But where to from here now, in your opinion?
Well, I think the present squad have laid a great foundation for the promotion of football in Tipperary, and there's a lot of people involved in doing a lot of good work for football and the promotion of football. So as Conor, the present chairman, said earlier on, it's important that we get as many people as possible playing football in the county. But I'm sure with the role models they have, such as Conor Sweeney, a tremendous player and a tremendous leader to the Tipperary footballers at the moment, with role models like that to follow, we'll have no bother promoting football in Tipperary from now on.
And can I say, Barry, it's great to have you here tonight.
Thanks, Paul.
Great to have you here all together. Now, let's get some more views from around Tipperary.
On behalf of myself and the Sinn Féin party and the people of the Carrick-on-Suir electoral division, I want to congratulate the Tipperary football team on what they have achieved, and I want to especially mention the fact that the way he commemorated Michael Hogan and brought the history of Michael Hogan to all the newer generation, to the young people, and it was done so poignantly. The way the team walked up to Hill 16 and placed the reed, it just made goosebumps on the back of my neck. I've attended a lot of commemorations over the years, and it was just fantastic to see it. It was a fitting tribute on the day and made me very proud to be from Tipperary. They've lifted football all over the country, and I want to wish the team every success for the coming season, and I think they're thereabouts, and we're in with a shout for the All-Ireland, and hopefully bring it on, I say.
On behalf of the people of Clonmel, I would like to thank the members of the team from this district, especially members of the team from Clonmel Commercials, who won the county championship also last year, and their manager, Charlie McGeever, and also the players from Kilcash, Casheelan and Mile Rovers, three fantastic teams we have here in the capital of football, Clonmel. As a Tipperary person, I suppose, watching football all my life and supporting football, it brought home all the teams that were there before him. The 100 years that went before, since Bloody Sunday, and the players that we had over those years and never got to the top of the hill, and it took this team to do that, and to do it in the old colours worn on 100 years previous. It was fantastic, and made me proud and made everyone else proud, especially the people of Clonmel and surrounding areas. I'd love to be in there, yeah, shouting and roaring, going hoarse, to be brilliant altogether.
We'd all love to have been there, Pat. Now, fitting that only a few miles from Grange Mokler, where Mick Hogan hailed from, that he's remembered in the Tipperary County Museum.
You're in for a wonderful surprise when you visit Tipperary Museum of Hidden History, based here in Clonmel. It was redeveloped back in 2019, and many people have not seen our new development. It's a stunning, intriguing and captivating storytelling museum, and tells the story of Tipperary across the county, and deals with issues such as life in society, the River Suir, death, murder, mystery, faith, religion. We're so excited to have people back here. One of our major key items in our collection is the Hogan jersey, dating from Bloody Sunday 1920. It's a woolen jersey, unlike the blue and gold of today's Tipperary jersey colour. The colour of the Hogan jersey is white with a green stripe, and the colour was chosen because the winner of the county championship, the team who would play in the All-Ireland, wore that colour of that particular club. So the club that won in 1920 was feathered, and those colours were blue and white. Unfortunately, the jersey was in poor condition, so it was decided, the Tipperary team decided, that they would use their Grange Mokler colours, which were the white and the green, and that was the decision that they made, and that's why they were wearing the green and white on Bloody Sunday on the 21st of November 1920. It's a priceless heritage item. This jersey has a huge impact on the people that come in and visit it. And I know that people have left feeling a sense of understanding of the events that happened, a sense that life is fragile and life should be enjoyed, and that we must never forget our history and our heritage.
Well worth a visit in Clonmel, and an upcoming War of Independence exhibition also about to open at the Tipperary Museum in Clonmel. Well, we're joined now by the Chief Executive of Tipperary County Council, Joe McGrath. Joe, Fáilte Isteach, what's your reaction to all you've seen tonight?
Good evening, Paul. Well, it's been an emotional evening.
we've relived the commemoration, the sadness of 14 people that went to a football match in 1920 and didn't come home. I suppose Michael Hogan wore that jersey that was commemorated back last year. We've witnessed the celebration of winning a Munster football, and our sincere thanks to both Conor and David. As been said earlier on, the county owes you a great debt for lifting the county at a time when we were going through a very, very difficult period of time and breaking that 85-year piece of history. We have the coincidence of a pandemic that brought those two events together. You know, the Munster final would never normally be played in November. It was played because everything was delayed exactly in last year, and almost to the exact date. You know, you do get the sense that there's greater forces at work. And then of course the county, Tipperary, that great belief we have, that huge pride when we see people now wearing the whether it be the blue and gold or the green and white of that, and the young people of our county, the men and women, football, hurling, camogie, ladies football, whatever they take the field to, that huge sense of pride of, and the support is behind them. And I think this evening is about Tipperary County Council, the elected members who made that decision to bring and make this event happen and to commemorate and celebrate all of those events, and in particular young people.
Sport is in our DNA in Tipperary, whether it's all sports, racing. You've got all people, great Tipperary people in all codes. Joe, are you doing anything to support sport in the county?
We are. I mean, we're working on a number of projects. Through our Tipperary Sports Partnership, we give ongoing support. But there's 3 projects I'd like to bring to mind in particular, and that is that the Clonmel here in the Clonmel Regional Sports Hub, which is on the LIT lands, or probably I should refer to them as the Technological University now, up the road here, of 5.3 million investment in multi-use sports facility involving athletics and BMX track racing and so on, and a pavilion as well. We have, and linking back to what Marie said, the Feathertown Park project, which has commenced, and that's out there, bringing together the Feather GA and Feather Rugby. And I suppose a particular word of thanks to the Magner family and Coolmore for the huge contribution they're making there. And we have we're working with the county board and GA on a 3G pitch, and indeed other type of pitches, and in Thurles, on the LIT lands in Thurles. And also another interesting feature of that again is the involvement of Tennis Ireland for an indoor tennis facility. So the common theme is about collaboration with all of these sporting bodies and bringing together multi-use facilities around the county, and I'm talking about millions of investment in those 3 projects alone.
And in the next generation of Tipperary
exactly.
sports stars.
And that's what we want to do. We want to build for the next generation. We want to leave a legacy.
You're an aerobe Nida man, a clubman, Joe, and I've met you over the years, and you've never been shying away from the fact that the blue and gold is very much to the fore in terms of your passions.
Yeah, well, I suppose, Paul, we're both aerobe men, I suppose, but in different aerobes.
Different parts of the county.
Different parts of the county, is right. No, I haven't. I mean, and I have my job has taken me to other counties such as Wicklow and Kerry and Galway and so on. But
you must have needed a crash helmet though when you were working in Galway, because the Tip Galway rivalry was
very sharp at that. But I never hid my county colours. In fact, I think in some ways living outside of the county even gives you a greater sense of connection with the county. You even get to understand and to know and to appreciate more about what it means to be from Tipperary, and to understand that connection that you have with the county.
Well, thank you again for joining us here tonight, Joe. And we have one more person to hear from here this evening. He's one of Sydney's Irish Swans. Let's find out what he's been up to since the All-Ireland Senior Football Semi-Final and his reflections on the year. G'day, Colin O'Riordan. Come in, Sydney.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, hello from overlooking Bondi Beach here in the middle of Sydney. It's great to be chatting to you. Since the All-Ireland semi, obviously I came back to Sydney, got on a plane on the 27th of December. I did my mandatory 2 weeks quarantine in Australia, and then it was the case of getting back to Sydney and straight into training with the Swans. Happy with everything out here at the minute. It's a case of staying fit and staying fresh for the rest of the year, and that's probably the main thing, just training away, playing away, and trying to keep the best side out. It definitely was a lucky break, and a lot of things had to happen, and a lot of things had to fall in place for me to be able to play for Tip. I never in my wildest imagination would have thought this would have happened or 2020 would have happened. But at the same time, I was probably Dave Power asked me to go in for a couple of sessions and just do a bit of training. Like, obviously I'd soldier with a lot of lads before I left and up along underage, and sounds mad that a lad over here in Sydney playing professional wants to go home and play for Tip, but at the same time you realise that you grew up playing the sport there, and that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's your first love and that's your passion. So just to go home, and then once I went in training and had a few sessions with them, it was just a case of, you know what, I just want to play this more than I want anything, and it was just getting on the front foot, and like I said earlier, making sure that they understood what it meant for me and what it meant for everyone as well, that, you know, I just wanted to have a crack and put my head in the pillow knowing that at least I had a shot at it. And I think once you do that, you're not too far wrong.
Evan Comerford with the kick out, given various options, goes for distance again, aiming for the two big men. There's three of them there, one of them has it. Good play, fair play to Colin O'Riordan with a wonderful catch, sending the ball down the middle.
I remember I think it was the 71st or 72nd minute, I went on this, and it probably was a selfish run, and I went in and I thought I'd kick a point and, you know, you'd look great and whatever, you'd be 4 points up.
Opportunity here for Colin O'Riordan, staying with him as tight as possible to Sam Ryan. Still Colin O'Riordan, can he score in the Munster final? He's pulled to ground, he turns, he shoots. Is it gone over the bar? Absolutely not, ball is wide.
I heard it pretty quick from Sweeney beside me, who gave me some direct feedback saying you have to give that ball off, and in probably a few stronger words. And that was, for me, made me realise that, you know, there's no one here that can win this by themselves. It's everyone together. And that was in the 72nd minute when we're 3 points up or whatever. But at the same time, it just felt like that all game. You know, it was a case of if one lad goes, the next lad's turn. When it's his turn to go, he'll go. And there was no question asked. If someone asked you something on the pitch, you went out your way to do it for them, and that was it. You have a split second to make a decision, but everyone seemed to be on the one page, and it was a really special day, and it was a really probably a united front, probably the one most united front of our teams I've ever played on, and that specific day as well. Fairy tale finish to the year, and fairy tale finish to me being back home as well, and it's definitely something that I'll take to the grave with me. But at the same time, I always look ahead, and you know, I don't ever want to rest on my laurels either, and I think there's so much more this group can achieve and can conquer, and it's just a case of having that belief again. And look, you might say, geez, just relax a bit and just enjoy the win and enjoy the 2020, but I think if you ever relax or you ever rest on your laurels, that's when your legs get taken from under you, and I think we can't afford to do that, because as for me personally and for that team, I know they have a lot more to prove, and they want to do a lot more. It's something I'd love to do again, is wear the Tip jersey, and it's something I never disrespect or I never take for granted, and it's something I always want to do, and it's a privilege every time I get to do it. So it's hopefully I get the opportunity again at some stage, and it'd be an absolute honour again. And the message I'd like to probably say to everyone is just thanks a million for everything they do for us, and obviously it's an incredible honour from Tip County Council for the reception they've given us, and to them, I just want to say thank you very much, and obviously to Dave and to the management team and to the lads I played with last year who was on the panel. Just thanks a million for accepting me back in. Obviously, it wasn't a case of me coming back in trying to get a bit of self-glory or anything. I just really wanted to go in and play for Tip, and for them lads to accept me the way they did, it was just real special, and I just hopefully they realise how grateful I was for the opportunity to play for Tip, and the opportunity they gave me to fulfil one of my childhood dreams last year.
What a great Tipperary warrior, Colin O'Riordan. Now, before we go, we're wrapping up proceedings with how we started them, with the Cahirlock of Tipperary County Council, Michael Smith. Michael, you have one duty to perform before we call a halt to matters.
I do, but I suppose I'd just like to thank you, Paul, and your production team for being an excellent host here tonight.
Many would dispute that, Michael.
Well, I'm saying you're an excellent host, and I'm here. Look for the term. I just want to thank you for that, and I want to thank David and Conor, our special guests here tonight. And you know, I want to mention your families, because I know the dedication and commitment that you give, and there has to be sacrifices, and I want to mention them here tonight on this special occasion as well. I think it's important to do that. And Barry mentioned names earlier, and so did you, David. I think of men like Noel Morris and Joe Hannigan, our fellow councillor, Michael Power, all these men who kept flying that flag for Gaelic football in the county, and I think they should be acknowledged here tonight, and long may that continue. But I do have one further function, which is, I suppose in normal times we'll be able to go over and present you with the citation, but it's going to be on screen with a collage of photographs. But I just want to read it out to you, if that's possible here this evening. And it states that, being it known that the Cathaoirleach Councillor Michael Smith and members of Tipperary County Council, acting on behalf of the people of Tipperary and in exercise of its powers under Section 74 of the Local Government Act 2001, resolved at its meeting on Monday, March 2021, to confer civic honour to Tipperary senior football team in the centenary of Bloody Sunday, in recognition and appreciation of the distinction earned in winning the Munster Senior Football Championship 2020, and in doing so, bringing honour to the county of Tipperary, and in recognition of the appreciation of Tipperary involvement in this historic moment 100 years ago on the 21st of November 1920 in Croke Park in Dublin. And could I finally say, we're immensely proud. You didn't have the roar of the crowd on that night, but you had the respect of a nation.
Micheál, great words as we wrap up. Just before we go, David, would you take Colin O'Riordan back?
Absolutely. Yeah, he just reminds me of, I think it was the Munster minor final back in 2011. We were playing Cork down in Killarney, and he was only 15 years of age, and he stood up. We haven't ever lost to Cork, this group, and we're not going to start now. And he's just a natural leader. You can see it, and so hopefully he will be back wearing the blue and gold again, because he's just a super man, to be fair to him.
Good to hear. Conor, there's a running theme throughout here tonight that you seem to be very vocal on the pitch. Are you as vocal in the Abbey CBS classroom in Tipperary town?
I'd say so, yeah. Maybe in a different context or stuff like that, but I suppose I'm always a bit narky when boys don't pass me the ball, but I suppose that's an inside forward. That's just the way we're created, unfortunately.
I thought you were going to say if they didn't have their geography done, that you'd be a bit narky.
No, wouldn't worry too much about that. If boys start passing me the ball, that's all I'm worried about.
Of course, and it's a very sporting school, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. The Abbey's a fantastic school. I've 4 years completed there now tomorrow. Love it there. It's really, really well run, and it's a great atmosphere in there. And yeah, sport is big in there, hurling, football, you name it, but predominantly hurling and football, yeah. And listen, it's been a tough year for the boys inside because they've got to play no game, but look, we're all in the same boat, but hopefully we'll be back to normal next September. Well, that brings proceedings to an end. Wherever in the world you were watching us here tonight, which was a celebration of the stars of today, remembering the stars of the past, and remembering the victims of Bloody Sunday 1920. Cuidamish Orhu Illig. Slán.